Tumblr Hills. That's what one of my commenters called this game, and I can't put it better than that, but I'll try. Silent Hill, the short message, is free to play on the PlayStation Store, and man, where do I start? I guess the story, right? There's no gameplay, it's the definition of walking sim, with occasional moments of running away from an insta-kill enemy ranging from boring to rage-inducing, as you're aimlessly walking around a dark maze with no map trying to find 5 items to unlock a door with a 70 FOV leading you to getting hung up on walls while turning around. Just what I've been waiting for as a Silent Hill fan. There's nothing else to talk about here apart from the story. Graphics, great. Visual style, fine to good. Monster design, interesting, at times scary. Music from Akira Yamaoka, sometimes very appropriate, though the developers couldn't actually make the music loop, instead just letting the track finish and then restart from the beginning, which is some rookie shit if I've ever seen it. No, we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about the story, and most importantly, why this is not a Silent Hill game. This is a script for a rejected Netflix teen drama that got repurposed for a video game. No, I'm not saying that's what it literally is, but that's what it feels like, because not only is some of the writing just straight up terrible and cringe, there's nothing about this game that makes sense in the Silent Hill mythos. The short message follows Anita, a troubled teenage girl dealing with massive self-esteem issues, seen in her jealousy of a girl whose art is admired by their peers, and her own lack of Instagram followers. We've already gone off the rails. I'm going straight into spoilers now. I'm gonna spoil everything. You've been warned. Over the course of the game, we learn about Anita's terrible upbringing with an abusive mother that used to hide her and her brother in the closet to keep them away from her new prospect husband, leading to her brother actually dying, his body stashed in the fridge, and her mother then arrested. Though this article here about trauma victims making up stories to deal with their emotions leads me to think that this abusive mother story may have been twisted far from the actual truth. So she grew up all fucked up. She doesn't think she's pretty, she's not popular. The story is largely told through notes found in the environment and live-action cutscenes of Maya, which I generally enjoyed. I respect that the short message is honest about what it is. It's a story that you walk through. They aren't tacking on a bunch of half-baked gameplay mechanics or padding the experience with hours of underwhelming exploration and combat to fool people into thinking they're playing a real game. They just want to tell a story, they're doing that, and pretty much only that. And I'm okay with it. It's less than 2 hours, it's fine. The most interesting thing about the story, by far, is the location and world building. Set in an economically suffering town, the short message focuses on an abandoned building that's being used by the local youth as a hangout spot, covered in graffiti from young artists. The game's notes directly reference the recent pandemic as a big factor in the town's decaying state, since they were supposed to start a big renovation project using Chinese investment funds to breathe new life into the city. But plans were shut down after the outbreak, and the town just hasn't been able to recover. Young people are fleeing the city in droves, and those who remain are falling into depression and despair. The idea of the town of Kettenstadt is quite interesting, set in modern-day Germany, but established in the 1930s by Japanese developers, with local legends of a witch that brought good luck to the town's development early on, and later died by jumping off the roof of a hospital after sustaining injuries from a fire that ravaged the town. There are conspiracy theories doubting her death was an accident, instead blaming it on a political party that came to power in the aftermath. To this day, some locals attribute spouts of bad fortune to the Witch of Kettenstadt. It's heavily implied that this witch is the great-grandmother of Maya, one of the main characters of the story. The building the game takes place in is totally run down, and has become a central point of the town's despair, as several teenage girls, suffering from depression due to a combination of the misfortune of their economic circumstances, their limited life opportunities, and the pressures created through social media bullying and having low self-esteem, have come here to throw themselves from the top floor, suspiciously similar to the story of how the witch died, a memorial placed at the bottom for those who have taken their lives, and waiting for those who will follow. This is great stuff. These are real heavy topics dealing with rising economic anxiety and teenage emotional development. But all this interesting stuff is largely relegated to the notes scattered about. The actual story involving the main character feeling sorry for herself, obsessing over her friends getting more likes than her, and being jealous of her friends, tends to come across as forced, cringy, and worst of all, obvious.
I lost followers again. Even more followers.
Cringe. There's no other word for it. This makes me cringe. It's embarrassing.
There's a serious lack of subtlety in the short message, one that absolutely betrays Silent Hill's legacy in storytelling. And before you throw examples at me of Heather vomiting up a fetus, or Angela's bedroom having organs thrusting through holes in the wall, those scenes come far, far into the game. Silent Hill games don't start with imagery that's incredibly thematically obvious. You might get a flash of something that makes you say, oh my god, what was that thing doing just now? Or horrific stuff you don't know how to explain yet, like a corpse tied up in wire. But these things don't scream what the central theme is. They don't beat you over the head with messaging right out of the gate. The opening sections give you time to get to know your characters, and there's mystery in the air. As the truth starts to reveal itself, the harsh, blatant imagery now has a place as your character is finally confronting reality. It wasn't until the later Western-developed sequels that they completely lost track of Silent Hill storytelling, and started displaying utter lack of taste by showing Travis's dad hanging from a noose, Alex having to shoot his mom or watch her get torn apart by a machine, and Downpour's absolutely revolting opening sequence, where the game forces you to murder a defenseless man with a knife in the shower despite having no idea who he is 4 minutes after the opening credits. Which is one of the most offensive things I've ever seen a game do. F you, Downpour. Since the short message is so short, there's no time for subtlety apparently, as you're thrusted into hallways covered in notes screaming bitch, freak, skank, etc., walking through hallways as ghosts bully you. Anita throwing herself off the top of the building several times to end her misery. It's about as subtle as a car crash. Here's a great quote from the Kotaku review. It's just so unbelievable that you can't help but be taken out of the short message's attempts at seriousness. It's a very boilerplate story that culminates in a message of bullying equals bad and beware the dangers of social media that feels more fit for a cringeworthy PSA from a school assembly. The game starts with a content warning, which... fine, put it at the beginning or end, whatever. But this warning shows up every time you boot up the game, every time you load into your last save, at the end of the chapters, and when you return to the main menu. And it's like, seriously, if you're that worried you're gonna trigger someone, maybe you're not handling this material correctly. I can't wait for Silent Hill 2 Remake to spoil the entire game's ending with a content warning at the beginning. I looked around for videos on the short message to get a feel for what people think, and this video popped up, an interview with the actresses, and I said, oh, that's cool, I'd like to hear about their experiences for some context. And it turned out to be 5 minutes of them just talking at the camera about how you should be nice to people, and if you're depressed, please find someone to talk to. In a video titled Cast Interview, why is the entire video just this? Look, maybe the writers lost someone close due to bullying or something, and if that's the case, I feel for them. Maybe they wanted to tell a story that reflects the pain of a loved one, and they wanted to help other vulnerable people. I can respect that, but it's so heavy-handed, it's like someone is screaming at me not to feel sad.
Hey Mayo, are you okay?
What?
I'm just asking if, are you okay? This is heavy stuff.
Yeah, I know it's heavy stuff, but, you know, it's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Oh, thanks for asking, though.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Hey Mayo, do you feel okay?
Yeah, I feel fine.
Bro, you need to talk.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Just a little concerned.
Okay, yeah, it's fine though. All right.
Are you depressed, Mayo?
What?
I'm asking if are you depressed?
No, I'm not depressed. Why do you think I'm depressed?
I'm concerned about you know, friend.
I appreciate the concern, but it's getting a little annoying.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play the game, all right?
Okay.
Hello?
Are you okay, man?
What are you doing?
Man, I'm worried about you.
Dude, what the fuck? Silent Hill games have tackled heavy themes before, which is probably why they thought it would be a good vehicle for their message-focused story. But you shouldn't treat your material like this, and you definitely shouldn't do it using the name of a series that has treated difficult topics way more elegantly than you are. Silent Hill 3 has a lot going on that relates to women's experience in the world. Themes of stalking, body dysmorphia, unwanted pregnancy. It's there to be noticed, but they don't shove it in your face. Imagine if Silent Hill 3's launch also had videos explicitly talking about the women's social issues it hints at. Put a sticker on the box that says, if you're pregnant and need counseling, call this number, you're not alone. Imagine if Silent Hill 2 launched with a speaking tour of the cast going around talking about how difficult it is to deal with a sick loved one and telling us we shouldn't kill them no matter how depressed we feel taking care of them. That's what's going on here, and it sucks. It just doesn't work, and the performances don't help. I'm confused. This takes place in Germany. Maya's actress is clearly speaking Japanese in her cutscenes, but there's English voiceover. And then there's voiceover for the other two characters, who are also not German. I think they're Spanish and French. So we have a German town with French and Spanish girls speaking American English, with a Japanese girl speaking in Japanese voiced over with American English. What? There are no language settings in the menu. This is it. Get ready for some really bad and obvious dialogue, like this winner right here.
I'm trapped. I've always been trapped.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And the quality of the acting, it's like watching Martyrs with the English dub instead of subtitles. I wouldn't recommend it. As the game goes on, it's revealed that Maya killed herself at the building like the other girls, and this is a surprise to Anita and many others because they thought she was talented and happy. We only get pieces of information about a guy she liked leaving her, and for me it wasn't very clear what she was so sad about. I guess it was just the bullying? You find out near the end that Anita was actually the main person bullying her because she was jealous or something. Amelie used to spend all her time with Anita, but after they met Maya, Amelie got much closer to her, and Anita went crazy over it and left horrible messages. And I guess there's other people who bullied Maya for being a freak, maybe because she's related to the witch, I don't know, who cares? I suppose there will be plenty to interpret. There's a moment where you learn your friend Amelie killed herself because her family didn't have the money to send her to the college she got accepted to. But then at the end of the game you get a message from Amelie and she wants to hang out, and then you're both moving away together. You can interpret that how you want, I guess. I don't like the game anywhere near enough to look into it on a deeper level and find all the answers for myself. I really don't care. I'm just gonna forget about this. But what bugs me far more than how this game fumbles its storytelling and mishandles its themes is how it has nothing to do with Silent Hill. Nothing. This game is here to impress people who think Silent Hill is whatever you want it to be. They look at Silent Hill 2 like it's the savior of all mankind, and think as long as you tell a story about someone dealing with guilt, a theme only one of the original games actually focuses on, then suddenly you have a Silent Hill game, as long as you put a monster in there. But at least the sequels I don't care for actually attempt to connect their games to the reality of Silent Hill's world. They go to Silent Hill, or they're in neighboring towns with a connected history. The short message can't even be bothered. The whole time I was thinking, what does this have to do with anything? Silent Hill is a game that took place in the 80s, according to most fans, with town history documenting its war crimes during the Civil War and a long history of cult activity, as well as a spiritual power said to have been present in the area before the settlers came. This game takes place in present-day Germany, in a town with no connection to Silent Hill, with characters totally unrelated to any past protagonist, and no involvement of the cult. I started thinking, I'm sure they're gonna throw in something stupid so fans can justify this game being called Silent Hill. They'll say, look idiot, in this one room you can find a pile of Dahlia Gillespie's pubes or something, and now it's canon because it has Konami's name on it. Well, they basically did that. Dahlia's pubes take the form of a note that mentions the Silent Hill phenomenon. Quote, these trying times have also given rise to a strange phenomenon in many areas. Those affected suddenly claim to see fog, even on fair weather days, and lose consciousness shortly after. This has come to be known as the Silent Hill phenomenon, named after a similar event that occurred in an eponymous US town. To one who is psychologically unstable, fog represents uncertainty and sensory illusions. When in a high state of stress, one's vision may become obscured or tunneled, as if one is wandering through a dense fog or mist. Societal uncertainty or apprehension about the future manifests as fog, thus blurring the lines between illusion and reality. No, not at all. The nerve these people have to come around and straight up retcon the entirety of Silent Hill so they can use it as a vehicle for their messaging, even if it's attempting to be helpful messaging, is downright shameful. They looked at this property and said, how can I make Silent Hill mean what I want it to mean? I know my story has nothing to do with Silent Hill's history or mythology or rules, so I'll just change it all. This is offensive. The fog in Silent Hill is not an illusion created by the mentally troubled. It is fog. It is literally fog coming into town from Toluca Lake, presumably. We know this because Harry in Silent Hill 1 was not an emotionally troubled person, so he's not creating the fog for himself, and in Silent Hill 3, the main character Heather is going through trauma, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but for half the game she's in another state, manifesting the monsters and morphing her surroundings with Alessa's power because of the god inside her belly. Yet notice there is no fog, anywhere, not until she actually goes to Silent Hill. And bam, fog. It's a foggy town. There is no historical event of people in Silent Hill summoning their own personal fog delusions and then seeing monsters, which is then used to diagnose a similar phenomenon happening around the world. It's nonsense. What happens in Silent Hill is directly connected to the spiritual power of the town, whether it be a cult ritual to summon God into existence, or the power acting on its own and causing people nearby to manifest creatures that reflect their deepest fears and regrets. It's not a psychological condition, it's literally magic. What we're looking at is a full-on attempt to retcon the series and turn it into something where the events of Silent Hill can happen anywhere, for any reason basically. They want Silent Hill to be a meaningless, do-whatever-you-want pile of silly string for people to play around in. If you remove the power beneath the town of Silent Hill, then Silent Hill isn't Silent Hill anymore. It's just a regular place, and you erase all the history that goes along with it. You erase the tragedy of Alessa Gillespie and Lisa Garland. You erase the persecution of Jennifer Carroll. You erase the treatment of Confederate soldiers at Toluca prison camp. You erase every bit of history that doesn't work with your new narrative that this is all just stuff that happens in people's minds wherever. You dilute Silent Hill into some kind of tasteless paste that can be smeared over a bunch of unrelated products to keep the series on life support. They want to disregard the rich history of this iconic location in video game history and the actual power that makes the events of Silent Hill possible, just to cherry-pick parts of Silent Hill 2's psychological story and pretend like the rest doesn't exist. Otherwise, their stories make no sense. Just make a new game, please. Call it something else. Because I am not thrilled about a world where any old jackass can write some random story about guilt and seeing monsters and call it Silent Hill. If we're gonna get stuff like this, the series should have stayed dead, because this twitching, broken, reanimated corpse can't dance to Thriller. And some people I just know are actually going to accept this stupid idea, but also try to reconcile it with the existing games, trying to find ways to explain how the fog in all the original games absolutely could be psychological and not actually there. I'm sure they're already out there doing work. But I assure you, this is not Konami's attempt to tie the stories together. It's their attempt to grant themselves carte blanche to do quite the opposite. And it's totally happening. The CEO of the company that made the recent disaster Silent Hill Ascension tweeted about how they are working with this concept of the Silent Hill phenomenon.
You've titled the game after a town that we don't even get to see anymore, okay? And that's just me being simplistic. There is now an idea that that SHP will absolutely take your mind and warp you into a world where you don't know what is real and what is not. And I am down with that too, especially the more messed up your mind is, I'm down for it. Let's do that. Change it to something else, because right now you're hanging on to something that gives the old Silent Hill fans hope. And the new Silent Hill fans are like, what the hell's wrong with this fan base?
This is where Konami is going with the series. And I'll betcha the Silent Hill 2 remake is very careful not to include anything about the town's history with the cult and the power in the town. I could be wrong, but seeing all this, it would make sense. Watch out for Jennifer Carroll's grave. And I guess you could say games should be allowed to change, right? Like a band. They don't have to play the same kinds of songs every album, they can do drastically different things, so why can't Silent Hill? But no matter how much they change their songs, the band is still a band. They aren't a fucking hot dog stand. This isn't Silent Hill, and I will not call it that. And you may wonder why I get so upset about this. It's because I think it's flagrantly disrespectful to the source material. Imagine if someone came along and wrote a new Harry Potter book. They called it Harry Potter and used it to tell the story of Snape coming back as a spirit resurrected by aliens and then going on an intergalactic space adventure fighting in wars with laser guns. Don't you think the fanbase would have a legitimate reason to be upset and denounce this story as non-canonical and a bastardization of the world? Did they insert this random bit about a woman everyone believed was a witch in the 1930s to try to plant some kind of weak justification for saying all of this is in fact somehow related to the cult? Is that all it takes? We're just gonna let people tell these random ass stories that have nothing to do with Silent Hill as long as they mention a witch a long time ago? I gotta stop here. This has been unbelievably frustrating to talk about. I can't believe this is the Silent Hill we're left with after all these years. I can't take it, man. I can't take it. So, who's hyped for the remake? Do you like what I do? Check out my store. There's cool stuff there. I gotta go make dinner.